Thank you very much, Tom. It's great to be with you all today, and I've been really excited about the opportunity to be able to present to you just some information with regard to Whitewater Consulting and talk a little bit about the world of HR and looking at really kind of what the future of business looks like and the future of work. So as a way to kind of set the agenda for us today, I want to be able to take a few minutes just to kind of share with you the backstory to Whitewater Consulting, how we got started, talk a little bit about the mission of the organization, and kind of how our model works. And then ultimately, we'll talk through a few of the case studies as well that will kind of show the work we do and what the impact has been with our clients. So with regard to the backstory to Whitewater Consulting, I started the organization in 2019, and the way that we came up with the name, and this is probably one of the most common asked questions that I get with the work that I do, and that is, are you part of the Whitewater Center? And obviously the answer to that is no, we're not. But the backstory is it ties into probably some experiences that we would encounter if we were at the Whitewater Center. So just envision 4 guys going in a truck going to Canada for a 3-week excursion. We had 2 canoes that we were going to be on, so we were going to be on a 21-day excursion navigating the lake and the river system in central part of Canada, where we didn't see a single person for a full 21 days. During that trip, at about the halfway point, it was a beautiful afternoon. We came up on what we thought was going to be our one set of rapids. Well, we looked at our maps and it indicated no, that there was actually going to be a dual set. So we had 2 sets we were going to be looking at. We looked at all of our conditions and determined that we could actually shoot through those rapids rather than going over to shore, unloading everything, carrying the canoes down the river, and then loading everything back up. So as we get through, we're going through the first set, and I'm in the first canoe, front man in the boat, and we go through the first set of rapids, no problems at all. And the second canoe comes through, they had no issues. So we began our trek down to the second set of rapids. As we start to get closer to that point, the current begins to pick up really, really fast, and we begin to hear a roar at the other end of what we thought was another set of rapids. As we got closer, we soon realized that we were coming up on a waterfall, not another set of rapids. And it ended up being about a 20-foot waterfall. And so the partner that I had in my boat, we were paddling. We were getting very, very concerned about what the result was going to be. As we were paddling, we were fighting against each other. And so the canoe we were just continuing to get closer and closer to the fall. But I can close my eyes today and still hear the gentleman in the second canoe beginning to give very, very specific instructions on what each of us needed to be doing in the way we paddled. And he started giving us counts: 1, 2, 3, left, 1, 2, right, 1, 2, 3. And as we did that, in a matter of a couple of minutes, we were able to get out of the current and get over into the calmer water, ultimately over to shore before going over the falls. And as I thought back on that story and that event, there was a couple of things that came to mind. Number one, having real life experience is really important. Particularly in that particular situation, John had been through a very similar situation a couple of years before. Second, taking the wisdom that you learned from that real life experience and being able to help provide and communicate in a way instructions that are clear, they're concise, they're easy to be applied. And so as I started to really put together the pieces to setting up Whitewater Consulting, ultimately my thought process was I wanted to be that guide for my clients that John was for me, to help me navigate through helping my clients navigate their world of being an employer, as a small business owner, and ultimately being able to help them mitigate the liabilities that they would have. So that's kind of the backstory as to how we came up with the name Whitewater. And like I say, it was a great experience and one that gave me a lot of insight and knowledge that I was able to take and apply that into my own business ownership experience, where we actually I was raised in a family-owned business and ultimately sold that business 2 years after coming out of college, bought into a very, very lucrative manufacturing company. And during that time, I personally let pride, ego, greed get in the way, and we made some really, really poor business decisions that we ultimately had to end up selling the company to get out from underneath of the debt that was created. So I was able to take that real life experience and that wisdom that came from that, and now I'm able to use that to help guide our clients through their world of being a small business owner. As we look at the mission of the organization and the impact that we're having, so our overarching mission is really to be able to provide clarity and peace of mind to our clients. If you dig down just one layer below that, it's really about helping them in today's world being able to balance their focus on their people as well as the profitability of the organization. If you turn on television or listen to a lot of reports, you'll hear that the issues become, I want to just focus on the profitability of the organization. That's what the purpose of the company is to generate a profit. And then you listen to the other side of that discussion, and it's all about, we got to focus on culture, we got to focus on the people. And the reality is, it takes both. You have to have a company that remains profitable so that they can stay focused on their people to build long-term success for their company. So we do that as we're building and really helping our clients achieve that clarity and the really having the confidence to be able to make the best decisions for their organization. To be able to do that, though, we have to really focus on, and this is where I probably get my greatest passion right now, is helping our clients focus in on their leadership, the way that they lead their companies, focusing in on communications, as well as their company culture and the importance that HR plays within the success of their company. A few months ago, from January to March of this year, I had the opportunity to conduct about just over 1,200 interviews across the U.S. with business owners that were located, and they really fit within our target market. There were companies between 10 employees and about 500 employees. And from those conversations, we gained a great deal of information. A couple of things that really stood out to me as we looked at the results is that companies, particularly small businesses, are really having great challenges today on attracting and retaining high-quality talent. They're really struggling today with how they go about building their culture. They're struggling with the digital and the technology transformation that's taking place in their markets and in their companies today. And they're really struggling with remote work. Those are probably the top 4 things that they're having challenges with. What's really interesting on the remote work issues is it comes back to they're just not comfortable not having their people in the office, which comes back to, and it's hard for them to be able to really communicate this, it comes back to a lack of trust that they have in their people. And we see that a great deal within organizations, is there's just a major gap in the amount of trust that there is between leadership and their frontline employees. So we're helping our clients be able to bridge those gaps. The other thing is, I heard Jason Basir talk a couple of months ago as he was being interviewed with Chris Allen here in Charlotte about the work that Jason does and on the recruiting piece. One of the challenges that he continues to see is his clients are telling him that they cannot find good talent and they can't find the talent that they need. And Jason's comment was, and I thought it was really, it was an aha moment for me, was he made the comment to Chris, you don't have a I can't find talent. You have a I can't hire them talent. And so I think that's where a lot of small businesses are today. The reason that they're having challenges in those areas is when you look at the applicants that are trying to apply to join your company, they're looking at the level of what's my level of compensation, what's my quality of employee benefits, is there remote work that's attached to, or available here, and then also what's your company culture. And all 4 of those come back to the quality of leadership within the organization. So what I want to do is really kind of talk today a little bit on some case studies about what leadership can do to help bridge that gap, to help make them more successful. So what was really interesting, though, as you look at the slide, these are probably the most requested services that we have from our clients. And so much of that, if you lay that over the results that we found from our interviews we did, these fit kind of, they mirror very closely the same issues that the services that we're providing right now. One thing that I would mention on here as well is our clients typically are small business owners that have between 10 employees and 500 employees. We are industry agnostic. We have companies right now that we work with in 28 different states. Surprisingly, our greatest number of clients we have today is they're headquartered in California. And we have clients right now that really are scattered from coast to coast. So as you look at the work that we do, these are some of our strategic partners that we have, and this is just a sampling. We have about a little over 32 different companies that we are partnered with today. But the model that we use as an organization is really what I call a hub and spoke system, where I'm basically the hub of the organization, where I'm client-facing with our small business owners. Once we do a discovery call with them and understand what's happening within the organization, and our process typically is to not only interview the business owner and the C-suite, but it's actually to work our way down to be able to interview everybody in the C-suite, ultimately to the managers, to the frontline employees, and in many cases they give us permission to speak with a couple of their own customers or clients so that we can have a comprehensive look at what's happening from top to bottom within the organization. From that report that we generate, it oftentimes brings about great conversations with the business owner because, as one CEO made the comment a couple of weeks ago, at the CEO level, we have the least insight, we have the least understanding of what's happening within our company. You have to get down into the managers and to the employees to really understand what's really happening. So once we have the issues identified and they're also, we've gone through and prioritized those with our clients, then we begin to look at our network of strategic partners, find out, look at what their areas of specialty are, and be able to connect our clients with that strategic partner to deliver the solutions for them. And then we maintain a quarterly process or quarterly meeting with each of our clients to help make sure that service is going well, and also that we stay in touch with what's happening over the next 3 to 6 months within the organization so that we can provide additional services if needed. So just a couple of case studies to walk through. Most of you probably work with small business owners who have or offer group health insurance to their employees. And most of us take the process of, this time of the year, probably in about September, we'll be getting our benefit renewals, which will be an increase of, say, 10% for this coming year. We will meet with our broker, review that information. We'll meet with our internal team to kind of determine what changes we want to make for this coming year. And then from there, we will set a time where we will do a review with a meeting with each of our employees, kind of walking them through those benefits. The week before, we typically just bury the employees in all this paperwork about what their benefits are going to be. We have no explanation of how things are going to work or education on what they should be looking at. But what's really interesting, the average employee today spends about 15 to 16 minutes with their benefits enrollment, reviewing that and making their decisions and completing their enrollment process. Meaning that they really are just typically falling back into what they've always done because it's easy and it's something that they know. So what we've tried to do as an organization is we've tried to look at this differently. If you look at our model really starts with getting to know your people. So we take a look at the demographics of the group. We look at what generation they come from, and then also ultimately look at what is important to them. Because when you look at this graph here, this is kind of a snapshot of what the workforce in the U.S. is going to be in 2025. As you can see, the majority of our workforce is going to be pretty much made up of millennials and the Gen X. Well, there's different needs from different generations. So when you take a baby boomer, we're going to be focused on retirement. We're going to be focused on 401k. We're going to be focused on maybe long-term care and a high-quality benefit plan. You go to the other end of the spectrum, they're going to be looking on, I'm 21 or I'm 22, I'm young, I'm invincible, I don't need to go to the doctor. So I don't need a really rich benefit plan, but I need help with maybe with student loans, because most of them are buried with student loan debt. So depending on what the needs of the organization is, or your employees is, it's really, it's important to keep that in mind. After we identify that generational-ish needs, then we look at having conversations with our people about, tell me what is important to you, and whether we do that through one-on-one conversations, small groups, or sometimes we'll do a survey with the employees. Don't do what one of my clients did, and that was they decided that without having any conversation, they gave an 18% across the board pay increase to all of their employees. And this is a company in California. They had about 75 employees. They gave an 18% increase in cost, and as far as their wages go, and they put that in place, and the employees never responded at all. He called me and he said, on our weekly call, and he said, nobody has responded back about this at all. What should I be doing? And I asked him right up front, I said, did you talk to your employees at all and find out what's important to them? He said, no, I just made the assumption that money was the issue, that we could fix these problems with more money. So I asked him, I said, go back this week, let's talk to 5 people and find out from them what's important to them. He came back to next week and he said, I spoke with 17 of my employees, not one person mentioned money was an issue for them. Here's what they were looking for. They were looking for, one mom said, I have a sick child at home. I have to take a half a day of PTO twice a month to be able to take my child to the doctor so that he can get a shot, where I miss 1 hour of work in the morning. All I'm asking for was, can I just have a little flex time so that I can adjust and not have to take PTO to take my child to the doctor. Another one said, I would like to be able to have Thursday afternoons, or one of them said they would like to have Thursdays where they could have a condensed work time. So it's really coming back and looking at what the needs of your people are and understanding that so that you can formulate a plan that will ultimately lead to being able to customize a benefit solution for your clients. And through this, we've been able to not only look at their physical health, but we're also looking at mental health. We're looking at their financial wellness. We're looking at their occupational health. How happy are they about going to work? And then we put together a business plan for them on their benefits. This is a case study that shows kind of what some of the results were. So in this particular case, they had 58 employees. They have very low participation, and they were getting hit with 15 to 25% increases year over year for the previous 4 years. After we began working with them, we put this in place and helped them restructure their benefits. They had an increase in participation of 19 employees. They saved $80,000, and they provided more benefits to their people. Now they're getting about a 6 to 7% increase on benefits versus a 15 to 25%. So it definitely has worked, and their turnover has also decreased significantly. Second case study I just want to walk through is, this is with regard to HR. So we look at this particular client that I was working with. They were with a PEO. They were with one of the largest PEOs in the U.S. And what we were looking at and having conversations around, when you look at HR today, and we've got some HR people here in the room, they can probably attest to this, a lot of what we do in HR is very task-focused. And so when you look at, for example, the future of work, when you talk about the task, it's all about payroll, it's about benefits administration, it's about performance reviews, it's about recruiting, it's looking at workforce management. And a lot of that is really task focused. So as we look at the future of work, it's becoming much more strategic. So as we look at how we go about creating a future work strategy, how do we incorporate AI into the work we do as an organization and also within HR, how can we use that? And so it's not a matter of we're replacing tasks with strategic, it's a matter of we're adding to, so we need a different skill sets in certain cases to be able to accomplish those, the objectives for the organization. So the question becomes, do we hire somebody? Do we outsource? Or do we do a hybrid model between those two? And so what we do is we actually are able to work with our clients to help them walk through and understand what the pros and the cons are to each of those options, whether they're hiring somebody full-time, bringing those people onto their team, or whether they're outsourcing to a PEO so that they can take advantage of both the task focus as well as strategic side of their organization, or do they do an ASO or the administrative service offering where you can have not only you have more control and flexibility over the the services that are needed. And again, we've got some people in the room here today that they do a really good job in helping build out that team around their clients, because what that includes is things like an HR technology platform, a benefits broker, somebody to handle workers' comp, and then finally rounding that out with an HR specialist to deliver the HR, to meet the needs of the organization. So this is a case study here that kind of lays out what our results were. The client, again, they've got about 35 employees. They were with a large PEO. They thought they wanted to stay within the PEO world and just change providers. After we did the analysis with them and walked them through and gave them the data they needed, they decided to unplug from that PEO. And when they did that, it actually generated a savings for them of about $65,000 a year. What was really interesting to watch was a business owner immediately got up from the meeting and said, I know exactly what I'm doing with that $65,000. And they went out and hired a senior level person that came on to the organization. Today, from January to June of this year, their revenues are up about 35%. And the owner attributes a lot of that success back to the person that they hired, which ties back to the savings that was generated by just changing the way that they did HR. The last thing that I want to just touch on is this goes back to leadership and the 5 C's of leadership. And again, this is one of those, this ties back to the issues leaders are having when it comes to culture, to employee engagement, and back to being able to attract and retain high caliber talent. So when you look at the 5 C's of leadership, it starts off with connection. Connection is about the relationship. When you think about your personal relationships you have, we build those by spending time with people. We build those with people that we talk with. We ask questions. We listen to. We find areas of commonality. And so that's the same thing from a business owner, from a leader perspective, is we've got to be able to spend time with our people, meaning we have to come out of our offices, be on the floor and be on the floor with our people and meeting them at the door when they're coming to work or being there at the end of the day to thank them for coming and for the contributions that they made. So we look at ways to be able to connect with our people. Then next we want to really focus in on the commitment. What are we committing to? With everything that has changed since the pandemic, we look at your mission, your vision, your values, ultimately your purpose as an organization, revisit those statements to make sure that they're 100% true today so that we can be fully committed to that personally and professionally. And then also we got to be committed to our people, meaning that the employees need to feel like as leaders we have their back. Third is care. Again, I think that just comes back in a lot of ways. What we do, it starts from the inside out. And so the focus can't be on ourselves as leaders, but it's got to be on how we go about caring for our people, both personally and professionally. Had a business owner a couple months ago that I was talking with their spouse, and their spouse said, over the last 6 months, there's been a significant difference in the way that they cared the relationship and the caring that came from that. Because the changes that were actually happening with that leader at the personal level, they were focused more on their employees and making sure that they were taken care of and listening to what their employees were saying. So this is really just a case study on 2 businesses, very, very similar. One company on the left has chosen to continue to do business exactly the same way they've done it for the last 25 years. The other business owner on the right has been very open-minded and looking at ways that they can become better and appeal to the marketplace and being able to attract and retain talent. And as you can see here, one organization has remained on the left has remained very flat. They've still got about 20 employees. Their revenues today are down about 3% over a year ago, and the owner is absolutely frustrated. And his question to me the other day was, what am I doing wrong? And it was really interesting because we've talked about the things that they were doing wrong for the last year. The company on the right, they started off with 19 employees. Today they've increased to 26 employees. Their revenues are up by almost 40%. And they're absolutely enjoying work. Their employees are having a great time. Their culture's improved. Employee engagement's improved. So it's a matter of, again, just being open-minded and remaining curious about what is happening and what changes are happening in the marketplace, and then how do we go about adjusting to be able to accommodate those needs. And from that, again, great things come from it. And it's about balancing your profitability, focus on profitability, and the balance on your people, and focus on your people. Those are the two key things to really work on. So with that, that really brings me to the end of my presentation. I'm going to skip through. So I would love the opportunity to be able to talk in more detail and share with you all more information on our company and how we're helping companies. On the flip side of that, I would love to be able to find ways that I can help support you and the work that you all are doing as well. So please feel free to reach out. Thank you.